The boxing world is buzzing with the news that Shakur Stevenson and Teofimo Lopez have finally agreed to face each other in what promises to be one of the most highly anticipated fights of the year. This clash, set to take place at 140 pounds, comes after years of back and forth between the two fighters, with Lopez previously dismissing the idea of ever stepping into the ring with Stevenson. The sudden shift in Lopez's stance has left fans wondering whether this is a genuine desire to prove himself or a forced move due to dwindling options. Regardless of the motivation, this fight has the potential to deliver fireworks, pitting one of boxing's most technically gifted fighters against one of its most explosive power punchers. Shakur Stevenson, a three-division champion, has been vocal about his willingness to face the best, and his call-out of Lopez was no exception. Known for his defensive mastery, sharp counterpunching, and ring IQ, Stevenson has drawn comparisons to Floyd Mayweather, though critics argue his style can be too cautious at times. His challenge to Lopez was direct and unflinching. "I seen you say you want to fight me, Teofimo Lopez. What's stopping it from happening next? This ain't no bluff. Let's make boxing great again, little bro." This bold statement put Lopez in a position where he could no longer ignore the demand for this fight. Teofimo Lopez, the former undisputed lightweight champion, has built his reputation on explosive performances and a larger-than-life personality. However, his recent career decisions have drawn criticism, particularly his refusal to face top-tier competition like Devin Haney and Gervonta Davis. Lopez had previously claimed he needed at least 5 more years before considering a fight with Stevenson or Haney, a stance that many saw as an excuse to avoid high-risk bouts. His sudden acceptance of Stevenson's challenge has raised eyebrows, especially given his recent fallout with Top Rank and promoter Bob Arum. The tension between Lopez and Top Rank reached a boiling point after he turned down a reported $11 million offer to fight Haney, a decision that led Arum to publicly distance himself from the fighter. Arum's frustration was evident when he stated, "I will not be involved with Teofimo anymore. You don't respect the business, you don't get the business." This fallout left Lopez with limited options, making the Stevenson fight one of the few viable high-profile bouts available to him. Whether this acceptance is a genuine change of heart or a necessity remains to be seen, but it has undoubtedly added intrigue to the matchup. Stevenson's response to Lopez's acceptance was classic Shakur, sharp, witty, and unapologetically confident. When Lopez warned him to be careful what you ask for, Stevenson fired back, "Boy, never mention my name next to Pedro Campa. Respectfully, the hell wrong with you? I don't care what you told Campa when you gotta fight Goku, Stevenson. The hell are you talking about?" This exchange highlights the personal stakes involved, as both fighters seem determined to prove not just their superiority in the ring, but also their dominance in the war of words leading up to the fight. From a stylistic standpoint, this matchup presents a fascinating clash of approaches that should make for compelling viewing. Stevenson's defensive mastery and counterpunching precision could neutralize Lopez's explosive offense, potentially frustrating the power puncher into making costly mistakes. The Newark Southpaw's ability to control distance and tempo has flummoxed every opponent he's faced, making him a puzzle that even veteran fighters have struggled to solve. Conversely, Lopez possesses the kind of one-punch knockout power that can change a fight in an instant, along with underrated footwork and hand speed that could trouble Stevenson if he's not at his sharpest. The key to the fight may lie in whether Lopez can cut off the ring effectively and force Stevenson into exchanges, or if the defensive specialist can keep the action at his preferred range while picking apart his aggressive opponent. Lopez's recent performances have raised questions about whether he can recapture the form that made him the lightweight kingpin following his victory over Lomachenko. The shocking loss to George Kambosos Jr. exposed defensive flaws and stamina issues that subsequent wins over Pedro Campa and Sandor Martin haven't entirely erased. At 140 pounds, Lopez has looked powerful but somewhat diminished from the force that dominated at lightweight, leading some to wonder if the move up in weight has cost him some of his explosive athleticism. Against a technician of Stevenson's caliber, any technical deficiencies or lapses in concentration could prove disastrous. However, if Lopez can channel the focused aggression and tactical discipline he showed against Lomachenko, he has the tools to give Stevenson the toughest test of his career and potentially score a career-redefining victory. For Stevenson, this fight represents a golden opportunity to convert his technical brilliance into mainstream stardom by facing a recognizable, dangerous opponent. While purists appreciate his defensive mastery, some casual fans have criticized his cautious approach as lacking entertainment value. A dominant performance against an explosive puncher like Lopez would silence those critics, while cementing his status as one of boxing's elite talents. The matchup also allows Stevenson to showcase his versatility. Can he stick to his safety-first approach against such a dangerous opponent, or will he need to take more risks to secure a decisive victory? How Stevenson chooses to approach this fight tactically could reveal much about his development as a fighter and his willingness to adapt his style for different challenges. The promotional build-up to this fight promises to be as entertaining as the bout itself, given both fighters' gift for gab and penchant for mind games. Lopez's brash, confrontational style contrasts sharply with Stevenson's more measured but equally cutting verbal approach, creating a dynamic that should generate tremendous buzz. The personal animosity between them, whether genuine or amplified for promotional purposes, adds an extra layer of intrigue to an already compelling matchup. Media workouts, press conferences, and the final face-off could produce moments that elevate this from just another boxing match to a must-see event. In an era where boxing struggles to consistently deliver the biggest possible fights, Stevenson-Lopez represents exactly the kind of high-stakes, evenly matched showdown that the sport needs to capture mainstream attention. Beyond the personal rivalry and stylistic intrigue, this fight carries significant implications for the competitive landscape at 140 pounds. The winner would position themselves as a mandatory challenger for undisputed champion Subriel Matias, or other top contenders like Devin Haney, should he move up from 135 pounds. For Lopez, a victory would resurrect his career and prove he still belongs among boxing's elite after recent setbacks, potentially reopening doors with major promoters. For Stevenson, a win would validate his standing as one of the sport's pound-for-pound best, while erasing any remaining doubts about his willingness to face top competition. The stakes couldn't be higher for both men, with the outcome likely determining the trajectory of their careers for years to come. In many ways, this feels like a crossroads fight, where the winner moves on to superstardom, while the loser faces difficult questions about their future in the sport. As the boxing world awaits official confirmation of date and venue, anticipation continues to build for what could be one of 2024's most significant fights. The contrasting styles, compelling backstories, and high stakes create the perfect recipe for a potential classic. Will Stevenson's technical mastery prove too much for Lopez to handle, or will the former champion's power and aggression overwhelm the defensive specialist? Can Lopez recapture the magic of his Lomachenko performance, or has Stevenson's time as boxing's next great defensive wizard arrived? These questions will only be answered when the two finally share the ring. But one thing is certain, boxing fans are in for a treat when these two elite talents finally collide. At its core, this fight represents more than just another championship bout. It's about legacy and the pursuit of greatness in a sport that demands both skill and courage. For Lopez, it's an opportunity to prove his doubters wrong and reestablish himself as one of boxing's most dangerous forces after a period of uncertainty. For Stevenson, it's a chance to validate his technical brilliance against an opponent who will force him to showcase every aspect of his considerable skill set. The historical implications are significant, with the winner likely earning consideration for future Hall of Fame recognition should they continue on their current trajectories. In an era where too many top fighters avoid each other, Stevenson and Lopez deserve credit for stepping up to face this challenge, and boxing fans everywhere should appreciate the significance of this moment. When the bell finally rings, we'll witness not just a fight, but a defining chapter in the careers of two of boxing's most compelling talents.